100%. I think it's amazing as a coach, a teacher,
Yeah.
therapist, like all of these kind of things. So I think you're 100% right. But again, it's similar to when writing came along, which is, you know, you did just end up with humans, I think, who just can't reason by themselves to the same level, but they did have this tool, which was the written word. And so I think it's almost a kind of standing on the shoulder of giants, right? Where, the depth of human knowledge that could then be passed on, like, just meant that we could go so much deeper on certain topics. And so it's just pros and cons, right? And I think it's the same here.
I think there's a better argument for that with just the written word than there is for LLMs, because with LLMs it shows the workings out. It kind of has to, right? Whereas with a book, you can pick up a book by an author and they can be entirely biased and have a very specific agenda in mind, and you can be entirely brainwashed by that, and it not having to cite its sources. You know what I mean? And that happens all the time. And it happens with online content creators and everything like that. They just take you down their journey for their line of thinking. But I guess what I'm kind of getting at with LLMs is that they can't really do that, or at least they shouldn't do that. They should show, an answer to a question is, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. I have to give you all of the information, and then you have to make up your own mind. And I think that's a really good sort of framework to give to people.
Yeah,
stay open-minded,
100%. But I think we are early in this journey, and it's exactly what you said there, which is, at the moment it might be like, here's all the information, make up your own mind.
Yeah.
But it's not a big jump to like, I'm gonna make up your mind for you. So I just think we start to, the more we trust these things, again, it's a very new habit now.
Yes.
But the more it's like, look, I really trust you now. You've got so much context about my life. Just tell me what I need to have for breakfast, right? I need to be looking good for my beef trip in 3 months. Like, what do I eat tomorrow? Rather than at the moment it might be like, what are all the macros? Here are all the nuances that you need to think about, and the sources and all these kind of things. As soon as like, okay, I trust you now, just give me the meal plan, right? And again, fine. And again, so I think the output is you end up with the good meal plan. You end up getting in good shape. Maybe a bad example, but I think just because we're seeing all of that thinking now, like, as these things get more and more advanced, and our usage of them gets more and more powerful, I just think that more of our thinking is going to be outsourced.
Yeah, my co-founder is an ex-teacher. He's an ex-geography teacher, and then went on to do educational consulting for some big companies like Pearson and things like that. And he's very, very, but he's old school. He's in his 70s, and he's very bullish on AI in education. Very, very bullish.
Yeah, 100%.
And one of his main reasons, we were talking about this over dinner recently, is he was explaining that one of the biggest issues that has been prevalent in education since World War I, really, is that everyone is expected to learn in exactly the same way and learn exactly the same thing. And of course, everyone is an individual. Everyone learns differently. Everyone absorbs information differently, etc. And AI has the potential to adapt for every individual, right? Even for whether it's for reasons of neurodiversity or age or whatever. Like, it's just everyone's different. So, like, he envisages a future where every kid in the classroom has their own sort of AI teacher, essentially, that it's not there to just teach them, but like to sort of accompany them throughout their learning journey. So they're still going to have teachers, they're still going to have classmates, everything's the same, but they have someone that they can, a private tutor, essentially, that they can poke and prod and say, look, I didn't quite understand that. Can you re-explain it to me in a different way? And because they know how they learn, they can speak that language and give them the A's they need to stay at the same level as everyone else. Like that to me is hugely, hugely exciting. And I think he's absolutely right. And in that. And so that, if you imagine because school is a long time, if you imagine a kid going to school, being introduced to that as their first entry point really into what AI is in the real world, and then having that all the way through until adulthood, basically college, university, and then there's probably going to be an equivalent of it for day-to-day life. Like, that's going to have an impact.
100%. I think that's completely right. That what is possible now, and it is just amazing. It's amazing for teaching because it can just storytell. It can break it down to whatever. It can meet people at whatever level they're at. It can take in all the nuances that need to be taken into. Now it can, with everything happening with image generation and video generation, like, you could create a kind of full-blown film for people to watch rather than actually going through a textbook. 100%. I think that there are so many more things that we're going to be able to do off the back of this. But I think with my slightly skeptical hat on, again, I think it's incredible technology that's going to completely change humanity. Like everything's a trade-off. And it's similar, again, I'll keep harking back to the kind of different world, that whatever technology has come along, there have been amazing things that it's made possible, but there have been muscles that we no longer use.
There's something else. It always is, yeah.
Like Google Maps, for example. Amazing for getting around. It means that we're not as good at, kind of geolocating around like that. Exactly. And I think all I'm saying is like that will be happening with AI as well.
Yeah.
Like there will be things that is now happening far, far better than it would from us. Like, Google Maps can get you around far better than most people can on the map, even back many years ago. And so it's like these technologies are giving us so many more superpowers. And I 100% agree with what you're saying about skill acquisition and all these kind of things. But yeah, there's a certain class of just things that happen in the brain.
My hope is though
that happen.
Yeah, but my hope is though because this is sort of placing a superpower in a really critical part of the brain, which is something like reasoning and critical thinking, that's actually something that can act as a really fundamentally grounding thing to take through life, so that any future problems or deficits that actually having the AI itself could potentially have caused, it's almost counterbalanced by that. Do you know what I mean? I'm really trying to see this as a half glass half full scenario, but I do, part of me does believe this. Like, if you are encouraging people, which is a big problem, by the way, the lack of critical thinking when we look at the us as human beings, like we severely lack the ability to on a large scale to understand nuance and to take in multiple sources of information and to reason and to all that sort of thing. That's a big problem. So if AI is able to do that continuously by the way that it coaches or works with people to learn and so on, then that's a pretty good foundation. And then so you look to the problems that you might be talking about, all the potential challenges we might be facing as individuals. Then it doesn't seem as scary, because if you have that as a good fundamental grounding, then perhaps you can address those things with a little bit more confidence, right?
Yeah. Look, I didn't think it's scary, and I don't think it's negative, and I think there's so many amazing things it's going to do. But I just feel like, as we spoke about in part one, like there is, as ever, we just have this, like, this time it's different.